Hey Lisa,
Hi, how are you?
good. Thank you for doing this. Where are you located?
Currently, I'm in Memphis
In Memphis.
for about a couple
Cool.
of years now.
Nice, nice. And you just completed the AI powered UX course. And
Yes.
in this interview, I would love to hear more about your experience. So in to start with, in one sentence to a fellow designer, what would you say about your experience in the course?
This course gave me the tools that I needed to fast track my design process, especially because I work alone. So it's definitely like an express in speeding up everything that you learned in boot camp or your master's program.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's like an express way of completing to
Mhm.
execute your design. Very cool. And let's talk about the before state a little bit. What was your relationship with AI before this course?
I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, but I went to a hackathon and I was prepared to come in as a designer doing everything in Figma. And when I got there, they started, they were using VO and they said that we wouldn't be using any design tools. And I was so turned off by the whole idea that I didn't come back the second day. I didn't finish the hackathon because
Oh,
I didn't want to use AI. So my relationship with it was at most I'd use ChatGPT to expedite learning how to do something, but I had never used AI for anything design related, not anything related to workflow.
hmm, interesting. So then now I'm curious what problems that you were trying to solve when you joined the course, because there was that experience, you got
Mhm.
turned off by that, but you ended up joining the course.
Yeah, because I could see the direction and where everything was going. And I could see just from what was demoed at that hackathon that the first night I was there that they were saving themselves a lot of time doing things that way. So I saw the potential to use it. And I could also see just from seeing some posts that some people had made on LinkedIn how they were able to develop a full prototype of something working as a solo designer and getting something much like what I would have done in quality of when I was in grad school, but they were getting to that solution within a couple days instead of a couple weeks.
So you were intrigued.
Hmm.
Hmm. And in terms of you said that you joined hackathon and you stay up to date with LinkedIn. So that's how you stay competitive in the field, sounds like
Hmm.
joining events and these
Yeah.
different you take like courses also.
I've taken some courses, which I still feel is helpful. I took a Figma master class. Well, it's an on-demand class, so I'm still chipping away at it. But understanding how to build your files in Figma is a very critical way of thinking that you need to have in order to even do AI. So I wouldn't say that all the other courses that I bought and how to approach design from, I guess, like the pixel pushing method, I wouldn't say that's a waste because if I didn't have that understanding of how to build out like a style guide and how to structure my files, I don't think that I would have the same approach to using AI because it's very easy to get disorganized. And I experienced that the first week, getting very overwhelmed with everything, feels like it's all over the place. So I think you need both. You need a structured learning style, and that comes from maybe a program, a boot camp, or taking some master classes, but also then using AI to speed up everything that you learned in all those courses.
So it sounds like if you're disorganized, AI is gonna make that even worse, speed up the organization even more.
I can, but I'm sure someone's already thinking of that, using AI to add more organization, and it will probably get better and better over time. I think most of us are probably using a couple different AI tools together to get to the solution that we want. And I think that's where I would feel myself getting disorganized, forgetting at what point did I go into this tool to start this process. So I think there's some things that you have to do in part of being an organized designer, keeping track. I learned that in the beginning when I first started designing that I need to keep track of every decision that I made and each task that I did to get to that point and move to the next level in the design phase and document it the entire way because when I got to making my case study, I couldn't remember what I did 8 weeks ago. And even the same, even though I'm only spending maybe a fraction of the time using AI as a tool, I still want to keep a log of everything that I did And most of them will have a history of it, but there's so much data that it can feel cumbersome to scroll back and try to figure it out.
I want to zoom in a little bit
Mhm.
later on the tools thing because I think that will be an interesting conversation from what we experienced in the class. But before we go there, though, how did you discover about this particular course, the AI powered
Yeah.
UX?
So I followed your meetup invites on Meetup, and I'd see you posting them pretty regularly. And I think I had gone to one of your happy hour gatherings, your virtual gatherings, a long time ago when I was in school. And I still stay connected, you know. But when I saw that you were offering AI, I wanted to learn from someone that I had actually sat down with and got an idea for their approach. I tend to do better with people that are very even-tempered and are very good at giving me lots of technical tips and things like that. So I knew that I wanted to work with someone that had a lot of technical knowledge, many years of experience, and had done things the old way so that they could advise best on how to do things the new way.
To build that bridge? Mm.
Yeah, many years ago, I took photography, and it was at that point when we used to shoot on film and then switch to digital. So
Mm.
even though some of the courses were taught in digital, the teachers that had an experience shooting on actual film for many years before had a better perspective on how to use digital tools. So it's kind of
Mhm.
similar like that.
Yeah, sounds like this is also very analogous to what you said earlier with no learning how to build up the foundation in Figma and whatnot actually
Mhm.
help you working with AI tools, even though you don't use Figma in that process potentially.
It would be nice to start mixing them together because I don't think any designer can really escape that just
Mhm.
yet. You never really know what you're going to walk into with the company that you end up getting hired at, and maybe they're
Yeah.
a few years behind. So I think it's important to really understand how to build something from scratch without AI, either way.
Yep. Yep. And what made you decide to take the leap and enroll in the course? You said that you went to the hackathon. Was that the big moment where you're like, oh, snap, I have to?
I would say it was a combination of three things. The hackathon was definitely a moment when I realized that AI was going to be a larger portion of what our industry is going towards. Part of it was I finished school in 2022 and applied and got to several rounds of interviews, and then I didn't get any job offers. So I just got to like a standstill where I realized I needed to have more work in my portfolio, but I wasn't getting any work. So I knew I needed a solution that could help me build projects, but also didn't conflict with my full-time work schedule because I'm still working full-time. So I needed something to save me time, but get me to a place where I looked like I had been working at many companies for that time in between graduation and now. So it was that, and also just overall frustration that I want to make a career change and I want to do it within the next 6 months. I don't want to enter into 2026 where I'm currently at. So it was kind of like I had to have a moment of reckoning with myself and say, you're going to have to start signing up for things and seeing what sticks.
You're like, I want to go there fast. So that,
I want to get there fast. I know, like maybe 3 years ago, 6 months would be like a long timeline to getting hired, but I would think in the current times, 6 months is not. It's probably close to average. I think most people are spending like a year trying to get hired. So
yeah.
I'd say 6 months is like a good happy medium.
Hmm. And during the course, what was the biggest aha moment for you?
Oh, being able to see getting that first draft at a prototype very quickly. I used Lovable, but being able to piece together just a few things, like a little bit of competitive analysis research, a couple user scenarios, and defining some core tasks got me to, even without a style guide, a prototype that at least in a usability setting made sense, and then got me to start thinking about, okay, how can I break this prototype? How could I test this on someone that would tell me that it needs this? You forgot about this part. It got me to that first like base level of a functional prototypes so much more quickly to where I didn't have to sit and think about which patterns would work for this. I'd flip through like the HIG and try to figure out like what would be the best choice here for this module that I'm building or this component that I'm building. And it just eliminated that whole process. So really it got over designer's block for me. I think
Hmm.
that's something that a lot of like beginner designers experience when they're just not as familiar is designer's block. There's so many options that I learned about which one is the right one.
That's really cool how you mentioned that you get to the place where you're thinking about testing really quickly.
Hmm.
It's like it freed up your mental capacity, your brain power to brain bandwidth to actually think about testing more
Hmm.
than because you didn't have to make those little decisions along the way.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
That's really. And now, like in terms of the experience of the course, how did this compare to other courses or learning experiences that you had?
Well, I never learned AI from anyone else. Most of the courses that I've purchased were all on demand.
Hmm.
So they sit there and you say you're going to get to them. And then you do a little bit, and then life happens, and then you go back to it, but then you realize you forgot everything. So you have to start over again. There's like courses that I've bought that I've restarted like 3 times already, and that's just the nature of it. But being able to do it this way, live in person, definitely helped me to stay on track. And it just, I know myself, and I know that like I just won't fully embrace something unless if I feel like I'm being watched, which is why I go to coffee shops to work because I feel like someone could be watching me and noticing that I'm not doing anything on my screen. I need that. I need that live in-person thing. And also just a lot of troubleshooting because AI can still be a little wonky and sometimes it does break and it's not your fault. And just getting that guidance, try it this way or try telling it, give it this in the prompt, give it this context or use these references. This will help you get to that point. I never would have gotten there. I definitely wasn't using AI in the way that we used it in our course. I used it like an advanced Google search, and that really would never have got me anywhere when it comes to actually using it for the design process.
Hmm. Hmm. And the structure of this course, we also had the other students working with you, and also the structure with the live sessions, obviously, and the capstone, right? So it
Mhm.
seems like having that structure really helped you move forward with this, and having that like accountability helps you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And just being able to ping someone on Slack and ask them, can you test this for me? Can you look at this? Because I don't know if my user would want to use it this way and being able to see what other people were doing. I think what's nice about on-demand learning is I can go very deep into a process or like a specific technique and a task and refine that and make it my own. So now I have that in my toolkit. But what I don't get from that I do get from doing these kind of courses is that collaborative effort and seeing how someone else would approach something and getting that convergence and
Mm,
maybe
the
someone saying
perspective.
something that makes me see the problem from a different angle and helps me figure out a feature that I hadn't thought of before. That is very necessary. I think that's where the magic in design happens when you start talking with other people about what they're doing and what you're doing and spinning ideas off of each other.
Very cool. Now I want to switch topic to you had mentioned about tools earlier, right? Like, and at some point during the course, there was an interesting thing. I remember, I think it was towards like, I think the fourth class when we did the AI native stuff, and
Hmm.
Claude wouldn't let you log in. And it was
Yeah.
like 30 minutes prototyping, and you guys in your team, you guys still delivered. It's
Mhm.
like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Remember that? You guys didn't even worry about which tool to use.
Yeah, we got very comfortable, which considering it was only 4 weeks since we had our first session, I was surprised at how comfortable I got with, I used mostly Claude and Lovable, but I was able to get to that place where I didn't feel like I had to read every single thing. Every prompt you give, you get several lines, miles of text out of. I was able to scan things quickly and see where it was going and then refine from there, edit the prompt or whatever. Yeah, and being able to, I didn't know that you could use these tools natively, a lot of them, and just having that as an option, reducing energy usage, like that's something that matters to me. So I didn't realize how flexible they could be. And especially with when we learned how to do MCP, that to me was like, wow, I can cut down my job application process drastically if I'm using this. And if I have my AI tool set up to locate the files that I need, different folders for maybe I'm applying for a product manager job, and then I have a folder for that. And then I have one that's UI designer, and I have some that's researcher. If I could set up my system to almost apply for me, that's life changing because that's my biggest struggle is sitting down and staring at a screen and applying for jobs and figuring out which ones are actual applications, which ones are ghost jobs. If AI can figure that out, that would be a game changer.
Yeah, and sounds like the that class, the one after the workflow automation was, you say you it was your favorite one.
Yes, because I've done things like marketing and had to set up all those API integrations when you're trying to send out an email blast and you have to get it to do this at this time. I think it's really fascinating to be able to get many tools to work for you to cut down workflow. I think my biggest thing in my personality is I want to manage my time because I
Hmm.
really struggle with this. I really struggle with time management. So if there's anything out there that can give me a shortcut or do something for me, automate something, then yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to automate it in any way I possibly can.
But so now that you're at this place where you've completed the course, how do you feel about your marketability compared to where you were?
Oh, so much better. I know that I'm still a beginner and that I haven't had like that big break yet, but I also know because AI is such a huge buzz right now, and because a lot of companies are just holding, they're slowing down their hiring process because they want to figure out like, should we be looking for people that understand AI or what can AI even do for us? Is this even something for us? Now that I know what I know and also what I learned before I took this AI course, I know how to position myself to say, hey, if we were building this in Figma, with this level of fidelity, it would take us probably about this many weeks to refine and get us to a fully testable prototype. But now that I know how much time I can save using I know that we could probably start testing this in half the amount of time or whatever. I can give them actual measurable stats on this is what this will look like with AI and this is what it'll look like without AI.
Related to that, what was that like for you with your capstone project with AI and without AI estimation?
Oh yeah. I remember I thought it was like 20 hours a week when I without AI. So when I was in grad school, we had 8 weeks to work on a capstone project. And some weeks I'd work like 30 hours on it, and some weeks a little bit less. But think looking back on it for the level of fidelity that I got in a project like that to one that was like this, which was pretty close. It didn't have as many pathways. I only built out one pathway, so one test, but I could easily do the two other tests or tasks that I wanted to do on it. I probably spent maybe 25% the amount of time that I spent working on an 8 week capstone using Figma and no AI. So I probably put about the last few days, I put several hours into it. But I probably put about like 20 hours into it total.
Mhm.
And I would have put easily like 60 hours or more into doing something solo by myself without any help from other designers. Yeah.
And also your project was quite ambitious with the amount of content that you put into it, the
It
interaction.
didn't seem like it. It didn't seem like it, but that just goes to show picking something that you're passionate about is
Hmm.
huge. Choosing something that you're familiar with the space in, and I'm familiar with that topic. So a lot of it was stored in my head, and
Yeah.
I had built many workarounds using Excel spreadsheets to do that function over the years. And of course, it made me really good at Excel and formulas, which is great. But many times I would think to myself, God, I just wish that there was an application that would do all this for me so I don't have to sit here and move all these rows and cells over because Excel is never going to do what an application can do. So, yeah, I had to be passionate about it and hopefully that pays off at some point.
Nice. What other project ideas that you have now that you have these superpowers, if you will?
So, I'm thinking developing that project further and just getting a few more of those tasks so I can show opportunities where there'd be more AI involved in the project because that was also another one of those like never ending possibility moments. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
can actually build an AI function into this app. What
Hmm.
other AI functions could I build into it, you know? So I think it would be fun if I made a more robust SaaS version of that. Maybe there's like a sales trainer portion of it. Maybe that could be created. But there's other things that I want to do. I made an app for service industry professionals during COVID where We didn't couldn't handle cash, so we had to like tip digitally. And I think it'd be fun to take that project that I built in Figma and then rework it entirely and see if I can replicate it and more using AI and see how long it would take me to do that now that I'm a little bit more versed in AI, so that I could also again prove I built this in Figma 3 years ago and it took me about 8 weeks and this many hours. And here I replicated it using AI and these tools, and it took me this many hours. And also, here's an updated style guide. Yeah, so I'd like to rework a couple projects, and who knows? I haven't thought of anything new yet. I probably shouldn't because I'll never finish anything. If I keep thinking of new ideas, I'll never finish the stuff that I'm currently working on. But yeah, I have a couple other things that would be fun.
It's just so cool that we started the conversation with the before when you're like, oh, like I need to catch up. And now you're like, I'm ahead. And also I have this, like, oh wait, but I need to focus on this. But the possibilities become endless.
Yeah, with the work itself, with your workflow, your creativity, also with the job application process. I love being a designer, but I hate the job application process. And I see a lot of potential there. That's what I'm really excited about next is finding out ways to shave off as much time as possible and get in and use AI knowledge as a leverage for companies that need that and other designers that won't do it.
So what would you say to someone watching this who's scared about AI taking over their job? Now the designer's like, AI is coming for me.
I don't think it's ever going to take over anyone's job because think about what people said like 30, 40 years ago about other technologies that were coming into existence. People thought that way about the internet in the beginning. There's always, whenever there's an invention of a new piece of technology, people think it will kill them, it'll take their job, or it's going to end human existence. But I think if you're afraid of it, think of how of other things in your life that you want to do, things that you
Mm.
don't have time for, and then ask yourself if AI could, if you could offload some of the necessary tasks that you have to do for work and whatever, and it bought you an extra 5 to 10 hours of your week to do those things that you want to do, wouldn't it be worth it to learn using AI? I don't think it's ever going to take over our jobs, but it's going to reduce some roles. It'll
Mhm.
make teams smaller to the very critical people that know how to prompt and engineer a project. It may
Yeah.
be that there's fewer roles, but if you're the person that has the knowledge, you'll land in that role. You'll have the longevity that you need.
So you become more competitive actually. And it's also interesting how in your story you mentioned how in the first week you were overwhelmed until you're like, okay, wait, I'm going to apply the things that I already know, right? The same processes that you already know, the design, it's just design thinking again, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the second week I had an issue, like my dog got super sick and I was in the ER for 2 days straight. So I had no time to do anything. That's like a perfect example of you have a job and your work is still going to be there on Monday when you go to work. But if something happens in your life over the weekend, is sitting at Figma and overnight, like pulling a 24-hour sprint just to catch up because life got in the way, is that going to work out for you? Why not just use AI? Like I was able to catch up in spite of losing that whole weekend. I was still able to catch up and get to a place where I wasn't as far behind as I would have been if I didn't have AI as a tool.
Very cool. And if you could go back and talk to yourself before starting the course, what would you tell your a little bit younger self?
Yeah, my younger self. Just hold on. It's going to be a new thing, but go back to your foundations and use those to talk yourself into each phase of this project because that doesn't change. I don't
Mm.
go into AI and say, build me this amazing application that does all this stuff and this, and it has a magic wand and does this. Because when you do, you just get like a discombobulated mess. But applying my foundations of design thinking and talking to my tool as if it were like a kid telling it, do this and then do this. Wait, hold on, take that part out. Let's go back to the beginning. Knowing how to talk to it and give it small
Mhm.
steps at a time and syncing every part of the design process to the task that relates to it. So if I'm in the research phase of the design process, I have to tell it, I need you to make a competitive analysis for me and only give me 5 direct competitors and only give me 5 indirect at most. Now tell me what pain points do they have in common? Now tell me, where is the innovation gap here? What could AI fill? Knowing how to talk to it in small steps to not overwhelm the system was very critical. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't study the design process. That is key, critical first. Know your design process.
Yeah, or else you wouldn't have known how to or what to even ask or tell it to do.
Yes, absolutely. Like you have to know what a competitive analysis is. You have to know what a user scenario is and like a service blueprint, have to know what to call it to tell it what to do.
Awesome. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for all that. And it's been very, very encouraging for me to watch the process. How like
Yeah.
you guys, including yourself, from the first class, you were like freaking out because it was a lot. But
Yeah.
then even not even like third class, you guys already like killing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It got to be really fun. There's always overwhelm learning something new, and there should be, because if there, that means you're not taking a big enough leap.
Awesome. Thank you.